Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parigacharastu Tarasata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Thai Gaur Premanande Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, titled The Cause of All Causes, text number 42. Bhurloka kalpita padbhyam Bhurloka kalpita padbhyam Bhuvar loko asya nabitaha Bhuvar loko asya nabitaha Swarloka kalpito mudna Swarloka kalpito mudna Iti valoka kalpana Iti valoka kalpana Burloka kalpita padbhyam Bhuvar loko asya nabitaha Swarloka kalpito mudna Iti valoka kalpana Burloka kalpita padbhyam Burloka kalpita padbhyam Bhuvarlokasya nabitaha Swarloka kalpita mudna Word for word translation. Burloka, the entire planetary system from Patala to the earthly planetary system. Kalpitaha, imagined. Padbhyam, situated on the legs. Bhuvar lokaha, the Bhuvar loka planetary system. Asya, of the universal form of the Lord. Nabitaha, out of the navel abdomen. Swarloka, the higher planetary system, beginning with the heavenly planets. Kalpitaha, imagined. Murdna, from the chest to the head. Iti, thus. Va, either. Loka, the planetary systems. Kalpana, imagination. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Others may divide the whole planetary system into three divisions, namely the lower planetary systems on the legs up to the earth, the middle planetary systems on the navel, and the upper planetary systems, Swarloka, from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality. Purport. The three divisions of the complete planetary systems are here mentioned. 14 are imagined by others, and that is also explained. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Cause of All Causes. We'll continue the next chapter. It's a very short purport. Chapter number 6, titled The Purusha Sukta Confirmed. Text number 1. Brahma Vacha Vacham Vanirmukham Kshetram Chandasam Saptadhavtavaha Havya Kavyamritananam Jiva Sarva Rasasya Cha. Translation. Lord Brahma said, "The mouth of the Virat Purusha, the universal form of the Lord, is the generating center of the voice, and the controlling deity is fire. His skin and 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns, and his tongue is the productive center of different foodstuffs and delicacies for offering to the demigods, the forefathers, and the general mass of people." Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksul Manitam Yena Tasmei Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so it's chapter 6 of second canto, text number 1, purport. The opulences of the universal form of the Lord are described herein. It is said that his mouth is the generating center of all kinds of voices, and his controlling deity is the fire god. And his skin and other 6 layers of bodily construction are the representative generating centers of the 7 kinds of Vedic hymns, like the Gayatri. Gayatri is the beginning of all Vedic mantras, and it is explained in the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. Since the generating centers are the different parts of the universal form of the Lord, and since the form of the Lord is transcendental to the material creation, it is to be understood that the voice, the tongue, the skin, etc., suggests that the Lord in his transcendental form is not without them. The material voice, or the energy of taking in foodstuff, is generated originally from the Lord. Such actions are but perverted reflections of the original reservoirs. The transcendental situation is not without spiritual variegatedness. In the spiritual world, all the perverted forms of material variegatedness are fully represented in their original spiritual identity. The only difference is that material activities are contaminated by the 3 modes of material nature, whereas the potencies in the spiritual world are all pure, because they are engaged in the unalloyed, transcendental loving service of the Lord. So we're hearing a description of the universal form of the Lord, and in this verse, I'll read the translation again. The mouth of the Virat Purusha, the universal form of the Lord, is the generating center of his voice, and the controlling deity is fire. His skin and 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns, and his tongue is the productive center of different foodstuffs and delicacies for offering to the demigods, the forefathers, and the general mass of people. So Prabhupada, at the start of his purport, is talking about this point how we see in this world everyone has different senses, everyone has sense of sight, sense of smell, sense of taste, and all these different senses we have, it must have come from some original cause. And that supreme cause of all causes is Krishna. Because we have the ability to see, that means that Krishna also has the ability to see. The source where we came from, he must also have the same thing. Just like in other times, Prabhupada will give the example, if you take a drop of water from the great ocean, and you analyze that drop of water, that in this drop of water there's some salt. That means in the ocean there's also salt, from which the drop of water came from. And if you analyze, okay, in this drop of water there's chlorine, okay, then there's chlorine also in the ocean. So whatever you see in the small segment of the ocean also has the same thing, which is the cause of that drop of water. So in the same way, Prabhupada is explaining, because we have senses, because we have personality, we're all individual beings, because we have the power to see things, we have the power to smell, we have the power to taste. That means that the cause of us, Krishna, he must also have personality. He must also have the power of seeing. He must also have the power of smell. It's not that he's just impersonal void. Because the supreme cause of all causes, he must have all the different properties of whatever things come out from him. So because we all emanate from Krishna, because Krishna is our source, whatever we have, personality, ability to see and sense, feelings, emotions, Krishna must also have these same things. And then Prabhupada, he goes to explain that this material world is just a reflection of the spiritual world. Whatever we see in the spiritual world, we also see in the material world, but it's just a perverted reflection. So this Krishna, he explains in the Bhagavad Gita, if you remember the 15th chapter, Krishna, he gives the metaphor of the upside down banyan tree. So the banyan tree is there on the bank of a river, and you can see the reflection of the banyan tree on the river or the water surface. But when you look at the reflection, the banyan tree is upside down. The roots are at the top, and its branches and leaves are at the bottom. It's completely flipped over. So in the same way, Prabhupada explains that this material world is just a reflection, perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Whatever we see around us, we see different persons endeavoring for happiness, engaging in relationships, perceiving different sense objects, and so on. Whatever we see here, the same thing is there in the spiritual world. The only thing is, here it's a perverted reflection. In the spiritual world, Krishna is the center. All sensory activities, they're done to give pleasure to Krishna's senses. In the material world, people are also engaged in sensory activities, but the mood and the focus is different. Instead of doing sensory activities for Krishna's pleasure, here everyone is doing it for their own sense pleasure. Everyone's doing it for their own sense gratification. And that's the whole reason this material world is created. In the 15th chapter of Gita, with this metaphor of the banyan tree, Prabhupada in his purport explains, just like the reflection of the banyan tree is situated on the surface of water. Because the surface of water is there, the banyan tree is reflected on that surface. If there was no water, you wouldn't be able to see a reflection of the banyan tree. So it is because of the water of the river, you can see the reflection of the banyan tree. So in the same way, Prabhupada explains, the surface on which the spiritual world is reflected as this material world is that of desire. So just like because water is present, you can see a reflection of the banyan tree, and it's flipped over upside down. In the same way, Prabhupada explains that this whole situation of this material universe, this whole creation of this material world with different planetary systems and different material bodies, it's all situated on the surface of desire. Because the jiva, it had this desire to enjoy separate from Krishna. That's why this material world is created. Krishna, he gives us the facility to play out this desire. As soon as the Acharyas, Shastras explain, as soon as the jiva, he has this desire, what would it be like if I was the boss? What would it be like if I was the center? In the spiritual world, Krishna is the center. All the attention is just focused on Krishna and pleasing Krishna's senses. But when a jiva, he has this thought just come up into mind. What would it be like if I was the center of attraction, if everyone was worshipping me, if I was the boss, and all love and affection would be coming to me? As soon as he has that desire, then he comes down to this material world. Because as mentioned, Krishna, he has given us, all of us, a minute independence. And we have, using that independence, we can choose either to love Krishna or go away from Krishna. So because of that small desire of the jiva to enjoy separate from Krishna, this whole material universe is situated. And this is the root cause of the whole material creation. Krishna has created this whole material cosmos, all the different universes with all of its different planetary systems. As we're hearing in the previous verses, that there's 14 planetary systems, and you can even divide the 14 into 3 categories. You have the lower planetary systems, subterranean, which is, and then in the middle you have Bhumandala, in which our planet Earth is situated. And we're hearing in Vedic cosmology, the subterranean or lower planetary systems, they're situated in the crust of Bhumandala, which is like a big circular disk which is going across the whole width of the universe. And then you have the higher planetary systems going up to Brahmaloka. So the more we read about the cosmic creation, like in 5th canto, the more we understand, how small and tiny we are, how great this whole material cosmos is, how much effort and hard work, how much intelligence has gone into creating such a great, cosmic manifestation. And this is just one tiny universe. It's mentioned there's millions and billions of universes, and all these universes are just floating in the Karana ocean. So we're so tiny and insignificant. And Krishna has created this whole material creation just to facilitate our material desires, to help us, because Krishna doesn't want to force his love upon us. That's why Krishna has created this material universe, to give us an opportunity to play out the role of the enjoyer, play out the role of the controller. And As we were explaining before, just like the water is the surface on which the banyan tree is reflected, in the same way the surface of desire is what is sustaining material existence. And it's because of these material desires that the soul or the jiva is transmigrating from one body to another. At the time of death, our gross body goes, but our subtle body continues to stay. And it is in our subtle body, all our material desires are there. And it's mentioned material desires are so deep-rooted that even at the time of annihilation, at the time of annihilation of this partial annihilation, when Brahma, he goes to sleep at the end of one day, so at the end of every day Brahma, he naturally goes to sleep. And when Brahma goes to sleep, the different planetary systems are destroyed. And all the jivas that are in those different planetary systems, they go and into an unmanifest state, or like a sleeping condition, into the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And all those material desires which they had are still there, present with them. And when Lord Brahma wakes up, then again, these jivas come out and Brahma has to recreate. And all those jivas, they're born again with those same material desires. And even, that's at the end of one day Brahma, even at the end of Brahma's lifetime is 311 trillion years. Even at the end of one whole lifetime of Brahma, when the whole the whole universe is destroyed, even at that time, when the whole universe is destroyed and all the jivas which aren't liberated, what happens to them? They go into the body of Mahavishnu. So before, at the end of one day Brahma, he was into the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And then when the whole universe is destroyed, then they go into the body of Karanadakshaya Vishnu or Mahavishnu. Then again they stay there in the body of Mahavishnu until another universe is created. And even at that point, the soul is present. It's still present with the material desires. So material desires are always there with the conditioned soul. They never leave. The bodies are always changing, but whatever material desires the soul has accumulated, it's always there, present with him. Even partial annihilation doesn't destroy the subtle body. Even partial annihilation can't uproot the strong material desires which are there for the soul. Even the final annihilation of the entire universe is not powerful enough to destroy material desires. There is only one process and only one way by which material desires can be destroyed, and that is by taking to the path of bhakti. And this is explained by Lord Chaitanya in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that all the others, like the Karmakandis, the Jnana Yogis, Astanga Yogis, none of them are peaceful in mind because they have material desires. It is only the Bhakta who is free from material desires, who is peaceful and happy in life. So only by taking to the path of bhakti can one uproot these strong material desires in one's heart. Otherwise, it's impossible. And if we don't remove these material desires from our heart, then we have to continue on in this material creation, lifetime after lifetime. Millions and billions of births, again and again, will continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death. There is no other process rather than bhakti. Even though one may take to the path of jhana or astanga yoga, the Shastras explain, even in that path, there's still some selfish desire. If you take to the path of yoga, the soul still maintains a selfish desire to get some mystic siddhi, to get that power of different siddhis, asta siddhis. Even in the path of jnana, when one wants to merge into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, still one holds mature desire, because one's desire is not pure, because one is not desiring to serve the Supreme Lord. One is just fed up with this material world and one wants to just merge. And because one is not engaged in devotional service in bhakti, which is one's constitutional position, the jiva has to fall down. So one temporarily goes and merges in Brahman, but the Shastras explain, Lord Brahma explains in 10th canto, one has to again fall back down to material world. So in this way, the Shastras explain there's only one way out from material desires, to get free from these material desires, and that is to take to the path of bhakti. And there is no other way. If we don't get rid of these material desires, then we have to again and again continue in the cycle of birth and death in this material world. And this is the whole root cause of material existence. Just like the cause of the reflection of the banyan tree is the surface of water. If there was no surface of water, you wouldn't see any reflection. Similarly, if there was no surface of material desires, this whole material cosmos wouldn't exist. As soon as we can rid our heart from all these material desires, at that moment, we're liberated. At that moment, we're situated in our spiritual constitutional position, and we're freed from bodily conceptual life, we're freed from material existence. So we should very much work on this, on getting rid of our heart, getting rid of these mature desires from our heart. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has given this primary method of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Cheto Darpana Marjana. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that you just simply chant this Hare Krishna mantra. All these anarthas and mature desires that are in the heart, they will all go away. And in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining. So Prabhupada, again, he's talking about the reflection. The material world is a reflection of spiritual world. And Prabhupada is writing, the only difference is that the mature activities are contaminated by the three modes of mature nature, whereas the potencies in the spiritual world are all pure, because they are engaged in the unalloyed, transcendental, loving service of the Lord. In the spiritual world, the Lord is the sublime enjoyer of everything, and the living entities there are all engaged in His transcendental, loving service without any contamination of the modes of mature nature. The activities in the spiritual world are without any of the inabilities of the material world, but there is no question of impersonal voidness on the spiritual platform as suggested by the impersonalists. So Prabhupada is again emphasizing that the same activities that we're doing now is the same in the spiritual world, but the difference is in the mood of consciousness. In the spiritual world, the consciousness is not contaminated by any tinge of mature desire. It's not contaminated by any modes of mature nature. It's all done purely, simply for the pleasure of Krishna's senses. And other times Prabhupada give the example, just like a drop of water, when it's falling from the clouds, like right now it's raining outside, when the water droplets are coming from the sky, dropping as rain, the water is pure, there's no contamination. But as soon as it comes and hits the ground, then immediately dirt, dust, this thing, whatever is in the ground, it immediately contaminates the water. So Prabhupada explains in other purports that the nature of the soul is that it's pure. It has no mature contamination, no mature desires. But when the soul falls down from the spiritual world, comes into mature existence, and when it interacts or associates with the three modes of mature nature, so this Krishna explains in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhunkte Prakriti Janguna Karanam Guna Sangasya Sadaso Janman Yonisu. That when the living entity, it associates with Prakriti or mature nature, then it gets contaminated by the association of three modes of mature nature. Just like the raindrop, it's originally pure, but as soon as it touches the ground, then whatever's there in the ground, it contaminates the rainwater. And then one has to purify, distill that water to get it back into its original pure existence. In the same way, originally we're all pure, but as soon as we come into the mature world and we start engaging with the mature energy, engaging with the different modes of nature, we become contaminated. And Prabhupada is emphasizing that the only difference between mature world and spiritual world is that the activities in the spiritual world, they have no tinge of mature contamination. They're all done simply for the pleasure of Krishna's senses. Whereas in the mature world, everything is done for one's own senses. And there's one nice story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita which highlights this point about how it's all about the mood, the consciousness. Externally, things could be different, but the main thing that Krishna is looking for, the main thing that establishes something as spiritual and material is the consciousness. That's why Prabhupada called this the Krishna conscious movement. We're trying to train our consciousness to think of Krishna, to think of Krishna's pleasure, to think of Krishna's devotional service. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is one nice story of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, how he was in Varanasi, which is like the capital of all Mayavadis, and one time he was leaving Varanasi and he was traveling to Jagannath Puri to come and meet Mahaprabhu and his associates. And along the way, as he was traveling, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he happens to meet one great devotee of Lord Ram, one great bhakta of Lord Ram. And they become friends. And he's also traveling to Jagannath Puri. So then they start traveling together. This great devotee of Lord Ram and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who later on becomes one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is a very pure-hearted, simple Vaishnava. And this Ram Bhakta, he happens to meet along the way. He also seems to be a very staunch devotee of Lord Ram. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj, he explains that this devotee of Lord Ram, that Raghunath Bhatta made friends with and was going with, He was chanting Lord Ram's names. He was chanting the glories of Lord Ram 24 hours a day, non-stop, from morning to night. He would just be simply engaged in Ram Kirtan. He'll be simply engaged in Krishna Katha. 24 hours a day, non-stop, he would just sing the glories of Lord Ram. So that's point number one. Point number two, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he explains that this great devotee of Lord Ram, not only would he do this, but he would come out of his way and very humbly and menially serve Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He would come, and they're traveling from Varanasi to Jagannath Puri, which is a long distance. Varanasi is more north, and then Jagannath Puri is on the east of India. So it's like 1,000 k's or 1,000 miles. It's like going from Sydney to Brisbane. So it's a very long distance. They have to walk. So naturally, they're carrying their luggage, the different clothes and different paraphernalia. And Ramdas Vipra, I think that's his name of this Ram Bhakta. He takes a very humble position and he comes out of his way and he serves Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He says that, you give me all of your suitcase and your luggage, I'll carry it for you. And Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, obviously, initially he's like, no, how can I let you carry? This is my luggage. Instead, you should let me serve you. So Raghunath Goswami, he's just, denying, no, I'll carry my own luggage, you don't do. But still this great Ram Bhakta, he was very much adamant. And he was like, no, please, you come from a great Brahmana family. And I come from a very low-class family. My parents are not from a Brahmana family. I come from more like a Vaishya, Shudra family. It is my duty to serve you. You're such a great Vaishnava. Please allow me to serve you. Please allow me to carry your luggage to Jagannath Puri. And he was so adamant and so insistent that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he didn't want to offend him. Just like if some devotee is coming and he naturally and generally wants to serve you, although initially out of humility we don't want, but still when we see that devotee is really much insistent on cooking something for us or serving us, then in order not to upset that devotee, we say, okay, Prabhu, you can do. Because we don't want to hurt that devotee's feelings, because that devotee, out of his love, he's coming to serve us, to do something nice for us. And this is also given in Nectar Instruction, Rupa Goswami, he says, one of the loving exchanges between devotees is to give gifts in charity, and it's also to accept gifts in charity. So not only we should give, but when another devotee gives something to us, we shouldn't, if we just reject immediately, then it could cause offense to the other devotee. So if someone has thought very nicely, okay, I'll get this nice gift, and for this devotee likes this, and he goes out of his way to get some gift and gives it to us, then naturally he wants to see us happy to receive that gift. And if we just say, no, I don't want this, and we give it back to him, then there's a possibility the other devotee can get offended. So not only we should give gifts, but when another devotee gives something to us, we should very gracefully accept it. And that's part of Vaishnava dealings. So Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, although initially he was very hesitant to let this great Ram Bhakta carry his luggage, still when he saw that this Ram Bhakta was very much insistent and adamant, he let him carry his luggage. So on one hand, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining that this great Ram Bhakta, he was 24 hours a day just chanting Lord Ram's glories, non-stop from morning to night. On the other hand, he's taking such a humble position and carrying his friend's luggage, carrying all the different items that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was carrying. And in this way they go, and he used to very much menially serve Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and they were good friends. And in this way he was serving Raghunath Bhatta Goswami and 24 hours a day chanting Lord Ram's names. And when finally they arrive in Jagannath Puri, and also third thing Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains, that this great Ram Bhakta, he was very much expert in all the Shastras, especially Ramayana and other Shastras. He was very much a learned scholar, very much a very Shastric person. So on one hand, he's externally glorifying Krishna 24 hours a day, taking very menial position and humbly serving the Vaishnava. And number three, he is a very Shastric person. He knows, the different verses from the Shastras and so on. So it seems, when you read about this, it seems that, this Ramdas Vipra is a great, elevated devotee of Lord Ram, very nice Vaishnava. So the story continues. They finally reach Jagannath Puri, and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami comes, offers his dandavats when he sees Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this Ram Bhakta, he also offers his dandavats. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he immediately sees Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he immediately comes and embraces Raghunath Bhatta Goswami and bestows his, causeless mercy upon him. because previously Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he had traveled to Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri, he had met Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. And Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, as a little child or a teenager, he used to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu already knew about Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. So when he sees him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately embraces Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, bestows his mercy upon him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just talking to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, inquiring, how is things back home? How was your trip? And he doesn't say a single word to the Ram devotee. The Ram devotee is right there next to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just completely ignores him and doesn't speak to him, give him any attention at all, and just completely ignores him. So when you first read this in CC, you think, why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not giving his mercy to this great Ram Bhakta? Because previously, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was explaining that this Ram Bhakta, 24 hours a day, non-stop, he was chanting Lord Ram's glories. 24 hours a day, he was just continually singing verses from Ramayana, singing different slokas, describing Lord Ram's pastimes. And point number 2, he was expert in all the shastras, he knew a lot of different slokas, this and that. Point number 3, he was so humbly serving Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He was carrying Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's luggage, his different clothes and paraphernalia, from Varanasi to Jagannath Puri, such a long distance, and was very menially serving Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. So from these 3 different angles, he seems like a pure bhakta, pure devotee of the Lord. And now finally he has come, and you would expect Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to also embrace this Ram Bhakta, also speak some sweet words to him, give him his blessings, arrange some prasad for him, and show his causeless mercy. But you see the complete opposite thing. When they both reach Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just bestows his causeless mercy upon Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, but just completely ignores and neglects this Ram Bhakta. And why is this? It seems like a complete mystery. It seems that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is completely unfair. This person, he's such a great devotee of Lord Ram, doing this, doing that. How come Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is completely ignoring him? So later on in the chapter, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he clarifies the reason why Mahaprabhu neglects him. And I think Mahaprabhu, he himself clarifies about the reason why he's not bestowing his mercy upon this Ram Bhakta. Although externally, Chaitanya Charitamrita explains, although externally this devotee of Lord Ram was chanting different slokas from Ramayana and singing glories of Lord Ram, although externally he seemed to be very scholarly in the Shastras, and although externally he's acting very humble and carrying the luggage of his friend Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, internally his mood or his consciousness in which he's doing all this is not to please the devotees, not to please Krishna, to go to the spiritual world and serve Lord Ram as Lord Ram's minion servant, but his whole mood and focus in doing all of this is to merge into the body of Lord Ram. So although externally CC explains that this great devotee of Lord Ram was so scholarly, was acting so humble, was 24 hours a day chanting slokas from Ramayana, although externally he seemed like a devotee, his mood in which he was doing all these different devotional service was completely wrong. His mood was not to go and serve Radha Gopinath or serve Lord Ram in Ayodhya and the spiritual world. His mood was to merge into the body of Lord Ram and become one with Lord Ram. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Antaryami, he is the Paramatma in the heart, and he could sense it, that this Ram Bhakta actually is not a Bhakta. Actually, he's just an impersonalist. Externally, he might be singing, different nice slokas from Ramayana, singing different pastimes of Lord Ram. But internally, his mood is, okay, if I do this nice bhajan now, at the time of death, I'll go and merge into the body of Lord Ram, I'll become like Lord Ram. And because that mood, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could notice, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely neglected him. So this story, we can take this point, that actually it's all about the consciousness. It's all about the mood in which we do things. Although externally one might be very scholarly, know the Shastras, different slokas, although externally one might be even chanting the holy name, just like this Ram Bhakta. CC explains 24 hours a day, non-stop, he was chanting slokas from Ramayana or chanting Lord Ram's holy name. And although externally one might be acting very humble and doing menial services, but if his mood is wrong, if his mood is to, merge into the Brahma Jyoti, merge into the body of Krishna, merge into the body of Lord Ram, then everything else goes out of the window. It's like in mathematics, if you're solving some problem, if you get the first step in the solution wrong, whatever else you do in the next steps will all be wrong also. So the main point, the Shastra explained, is in the mood or the consciousness in which we do things. The mood should be to bring pleasure to Radha Gopinath, to bring pleasure to Lord Ram or whoever it is, Vishnu Tattva. If that mood or that consciousness is wrong, then everything else is wrong. Externally, one might be very scholarly, one might be singing the holy name or different things, but if that mood or consciousness is wrong, then Krishna, he doesn't think much about it. And we see this with India. We see many different sadhus. Externally, they'll seem very renounced. They'll know different slokas from the Shastras. But when you get to know them more closely, you understand that actually they're Mayavadis, or they're impersonalists. Their whole goal is not to go to the spiritual world and serve Radha Gopinath. Their goal is to just merge into impersonal Brahman. So they still have that envy of Krishna. Why should Krishna be the enjoyer? I'll merge into the body of Krishna, I'll be like Krishna. Or I'll merge into the body of Lord Ram, I'll be like Lord Ram. So this was the mood of this Ram Bhakta. So this story is again highlighted to show that actually it's all about the consciousness in which we do things. If the consciousness is right, then externals Krishna will overlook. Although externally we might do small mistake here, small mistake there. If our mood and consciousness is to please Guru, to please Krishna, to please the devotees, then Krishna will accept that. As long as we're doing things in love and devotion for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna, Krishna will accept. And we're hearing with Lord Jagannath, that's the reason why Lord Jagannath has big eyes. His big eyes doesn't signify that with his big eyes he's trying to look for faults. This, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. But his big eyes, he's looking for even the smallest good thing we do. So this is the mood of Krishna, that he's just looking for an excuse to give us mercy. So as long as our mood and intentions are right, our consciousness is to, we don't have ulterior motives, we're doing things in the mood of pleasing Krishna, pleasing the Vaishnavas. Although with that mood, we might do some small mistakes here and there, which were natural to commit because none of us are perfect. Krishna, he overlooks all of that. And Krishna will still bestow mercy. On the other hand, if the mood is completely wrong, if the mood is to merge into the body of Krishna, to be like Krishna, then even though externally we might be doing everything perfectly, Krishna, he will just reject it. As we see in the case of this great devotee of Lord Ram, which is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We'll continue on with the purport. The activities in the spiritual world are without any of the inebrities of the material world, but there is no question of impersonal voidness on the spiritual platform, as suggested by the impersonalists. Devotional service is defined in the Narada Pancharatra as follows. Sarvapadi vinurmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. Originally, since all the senses are produced of the Lord's reservoir of senses, the sensual activities of the material world are to be purified by the process of devotional service, and thus the perfection of life can be attained simply by purifying the present position of our material activities. So as we were explaining before, originally we're all pure, just like the drops of rainwater, but as soon as we come into mature existence and associate with material modes, we become contaminated. Just like the pure rainwater, when it comes and hits the ground, it gets contaminated by the dirt and the mud and whatever else is there in the ground. And so then we have to purify that water which has come onto the ground. And the process is devotional service. So that's very important. If you study the example of the great devotees of the Lord, they do things in a mood for their own purification. They never think that they're very pure. They always think themselves as very fallen. And the mood in which they do devotional service is in that mood of purification. Let me do this to purify my own soul. Just like in the 7th canto, when Lord Nrsimhadev, he's so angry, and no one can pacify Lord Nrsimhadev. Brahma can't pacify him, Lakshmi Devi can't pacify him. Lord Shiva and all the other demigods, they all come and offer praise to Lord Nrsimhadev. But still, Nrsimhadev is super angry, no one can pacify him. Then finally, Lord Brahma requests Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, this whole thing has happened because of you. Only because of you, Lord Nrsimhadev came. You're the cause of all this, so you go and solve the problem. You go and pacify Lord Nrsimhadev's anger. So then Prahlad Maharaj, he goes and he offers praise. And what's the very first thing he says? First thing he says is, actually, my Lord, I'm not qualified to offer praise to you. Who am I? I'm just the son of a demon. My background is that of demonic people. I come in a great lineage of demons. My father was such a great demon, Hiranyakashipu. I'm so fallen, I'm so unqualified. Then Prahlad Maharaj explains, that when all these great demigods, when even Lord Brahma, Lakshmi Devi, Lord Shiva, when even all these great devotees of yours and all these great demigods, when they couldn't satisfy you, when they couldn't pacify you, then what to speak of me, who am born in a family of demons? I am not at all qualified to speak to you. I'm not even qualified to offer praise to you. So this is the mood in which Prahlad Maharaj approaches his devotional service. First, his consciousness is that of humility, that actually I'm not qualified to do this service of offering praise to the Lord. But still he goes on to offer praise. And why? In the next verse, after exemplifying humility, after explaining how actually he's not qualified to offer praise, he comes from a demoniac family, and when all these great devatas, they couldn't pacify Lord Nrsimhadev, then what chance do I stand? After offering these humble words of humility, next he says, although I'm not qualified, still let me do it for my own purification. So this is the mood of the devotee. They feel themselves unqualified to serve Krishna, to do any sort of service for them. But at the same time, because the Guru has instructed them to do a particular service, they do that service, but they do it in a mood of self-purification. They think that, okay, actually I'm not qualified to do this service, but still my Guru Maharaj has ordered me. Lord Brahma has instructed Prahlad Maharaj, so he has to follow his authority's order and do this service. And he does it in a mood of self-purification. And we see this with the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. In one verse he says that actually I'm not qualified to offer praise, but still because my seniors have ordered me, I'm going to offer praise, and I'll do it simply for my own purification. I'm very fallen and sinful, but by offering praise to you, I will purify my own existence, and I'll become more pure at heart. So this is the mood of every Vaishnava. He always feels himself unqualified to do any devotional service, but still he goes on to do that service for the pleasure of his Guru Maharaj, and he does it in a mood of self-purification. By doing this, I'll purify my existence. I have so many anathas in my heart. Let me engage in this service for Krishna's pleasure and purify myself. Same mood we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We see with Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. The same mood he has, the exact mood that Prahlad Maharaj is showing in Bhagavatam in 7th canto, the exact same mood Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami he's showing in CC. Before he starts writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, he explains how fallen and lowly he is. Although he's such a great elevated Vaishnava, he says that I am so fallen, I am lower than a worm in a stool. I am more fallen than Jagai and Madai. If anyone chants my name, all of his punya, all of his pious activities will go away. If anyone hears of my activities, then sins will come upon him. This is the way he introduces himself in CC. He introduces himself as so fallen, and he just completely puts himself down. But still, on the other hand, he says, still, although I am so fallen, unqualified, Radha Madan Mohan, they have instructed me, the Vaishnavas have instructed me to write this book. So to satisfy their desires, to please the Vaishnavas, to please my spiritual masters, to please the deities have instructed me to write this, the Vaishnavas have instructed me to write this. Still on their order, I am writing this CC simply for my own purification. By writing these slokas, these verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita, I am hoping that my existence will be purified and I'll also become pure. So the exact same mood that Prahlad Maharaj is exemplifying, that same mood we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita with the example of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. That a devotee, he always feels himself unqualified to do any service for Krishna. But still he goes on to do it because his spiritual master instructed, he does that service, and he does that service in that mood of humility. That actually I'm unqualified, it is only by the blessings of my Guru Maharaj I'm engaged in this service. Let me do this service simply for my own purification. I'm very fallen, I'm very sinful. Let me do it for my own purification. So that should be our mood when we engage in devotional service. That's what's being shown by all the great devotees like Prahlad Maharaj and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So we continue in the purport. Originally, since all the senses are produced of the Lord's reservoir of senses, the sensual activities of the material world are to be purified by the process of devotional service. Thus, the perfection of life can be attained simply by purifying the present position of our material activities. And the purifying process begins from the stage of being liberated from the conception of different designations. Every living entity is engaged in some sort of service, either for the self, or for the family, or for the society, country, etc. But unfortunately, all such services are rendered due to material attachment. The attachments of the material affinity may be simply changed to the service of the Lord, and thus the treatment of being freed from material attachment begins automatically. The process of liberation is therefore easier through devotional service than by any other methods. For in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is said that one is subjected to various kinds of tribulations if one is impersonally attached. Kleso dikataras tesam avyaktasakta chetasam. So we stop here, we're just on time. Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande.